Buenos días, chiquillos. Hoy día vamos a hablar de los pronombres relativos. Okay. Aquí tenemos una lista de los pronombres. Puedes anotarlos cuando tengas tiempo. Primero, ¿qué es un pronombre relativo? It refers to a noun or the antecedent from a main clause and introduces a subordinate clause, relative clause, or adjectival clause. The main thing we want to look at here is that it joins two references to the same noun. Por ejemplo, el estudiante se especializa en español. Número 2, el estudiante vino a verme. Son dos ideas. Okay, so there are two references to the same noun or antecedent, which is el estudiante. Okay, and if we were to combine these, el estudiante que vino a verme se especializa en español. Okay, so if we look at this, it means the student is a Spanish major. So one reference to the student. The student came to see me. That's the second reference, and we mesh them together. The student who came to see me is a Spanish major. In English, the relative pronoun is often not expressed. The house that we saw yesterday is too big. So in English, we don't have to say that. It's optional. Spanish, it can't be omitted. So, la casa que vimos ayer es demasiado grande. There's no way we could leave that out. It just doesn't sound right in Spanish. The relative pronoun follows its antecedent immediately. Only a few structures may come in between them, such as prepositions. Por ejemplo, se quemó la casa frente a la cual me había estacionado. So aquí, frente a es una preposición. And it's the only thing that can be allowed in between la casa, which is the antecedent, and la cual, which is the relative pronoun. The house in front of which I had parked burned down. Qué terrible. So here we have like a basic usage chart. This is really simplified
Right now?
for quick reference and everything. If you have one noun, you just use que. If the antecedent is just one noun, you just use que. But if you have a preposition, then you can use el que or el cual or el que. And you have to make sure that el matches in number and gender with the antecedent. Okay. Now, if your antecedent is a clause, then you have more choices. Lo que, lo cual. That's usually when we're referring to an idea. If you want to say the one, el que or la que. What, lo que, or you can say la que. And whose, cuyo. And again, this has to match a number and gender with the antecedent. Oh, not with the antecedent. This has to match a number and gender with what follows it. So, pronombres relativos sin una preposición. Que can always be used whether the antecedent is an inanimate object or a human being. You can never use quien in this case. Por ejemplo, la casa que tengo en Ítaca es vieja. So there we have a thing, una cosa. El amigo que vive en Ítaca es viejo. Es una persona. So here, the antecedent is a thing, and the antecedent in this sentence is a person. So, and we use que in both cases. So that translates to the house that I have in Ithaca is old. That is optional. The friend who lives in Ithaca is old. So in English we would say who, but it doesn't translate to who in this case in Spanish. Pronombres relativos con una preposición. El cual, el que. The forms el cual, los cuales, el que, los que can always be used. Always place the preposition before the relative pronoun. Okay. So la compañía para la cual o la que trabajo es japonesa. Notice how it's interchangeable. And in some regions they'll prefer la cual and others la que, but in general they're fairly interchangeable. Now notice we do have the preposition in between the antecedent and the relative pronoun. La mujer para la cual o la que trabajo es puertorriqueña. Okay. Again, preposition in between the antecedent and the pronoun, the relative pronoun. So the company which I work or you can say the company I work for is Japanese. The woman for whom I work, or more commonly in English, the woman I work for is Puerto Rican. Pronombres relativos con una preposición, exceptional prepositions. Okay. The following prepositions may be used with que alone when the antecedent is an inanimate object, not a human. So when it's not a human, then we could use prepositions. La iglesia, notice we have a single noun as the antecedent. A que voy está en el centro. So there we use the preposition a. El libro de que me habló parece interesante. Again, the preposition in between the two. La silla en que me senté estaba pegajosa. El lápiz con que escribo se me rompió. So the church I go to is downtown. The book he talked to me about seems interesting. The chair in which I sat was sticky, and the pencil with which I write broke.